I want to start, traditionally in Canada, we start by noting that my home is in Tekaronto, which is a Mohawk word which translates to where the trees meet the water or the gathering place. Tekaronto is bound by Dish with One Spoon, a treaty between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples to share the territory, promote peace, and protect the land. I acknowledge them and any other nations who care for the land, recorded and unrecorded, and I pay my respects to Canada's first storytellers. We're meeting virtually today to discuss the ongoing effects of the global coronavirus pandemic on our work and livelihoods. I'm very pleased to introduce my co-presenter, Katie Webb, from FUIS, the Federazione Unitaria Italiana Scrittori in Italy. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Katie is going to present a wonderful project from our colleagues in Italy. Katie?
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this fantastic opportunity to come together, albeit virtually. But I think this has been one of the few positives of this period, is that we have all become a lot more comfortable getting together online and making sure that we use the technology we're lucky enough to be able to enjoy to remain connected. So my name's Katie and I'm the International Co-Director of FUIS, la Federazione Unitaria Italiana Scrittori, which is the Writers' Union of Italy. And I also represent FUIS on the steering committee of the International Authors Forum. So I'd now like to introduce you to my fellow International Co-Director of FUIS, Ida Boucher. And Ida and I are both speaking to you from Italy today. I'm in Abruzzo, in central Italy, on the Adriatic coast and on the east side. And Ida is, I believe, in Rome today, where she lives. During the period of quarantine in Italy, which began very early on in the pandemic, as I'm sure most of you know, and was very strict, FUIS created its Diary in Coronavirus, which is an initiative that would both provide a record of this extraordinary period and create solidarity between writers in Italy and worldwide. So now I'd like to hand over to Ida, and she'll tell you more about the diary and how this has shaped FUIS's ongoing response to our altered world. Okay, thank you, Ida. Over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I wish to thank International Authors Forum for making this event possible. Unfortunately, the situation is still grave for Italian writers. They were excluded from the measures taken by the Italian government to help the cultural sector during COVID-19. Nothing has changed, just like before. We hope that attitude will change soon. Today, I would like to talk about an initiative introduced by Federazione Unitaria Italiana Scrittori, FUIS, during a lockdown. In order to make writers feel less isolated during a time of great discomfort, FUIS made an appeal to encourage them to write about their experience and feelings and to create stories being inspired by the current situation. Hundreds of writers have responded to this, not only Italian. The texts were written weekly between the 19th of March and the 15th of June. They were collated by Sunday each week and included in what was called the Coronavirus Diary. 13 diaries were written, one for each week of lockdown. The diary will be published by FUIS in both print and online versions. FUIS is very proud of this initiative, as it represents the range of feelings that were felt by many during this period: anxiety, happiness, discouragement, hope, despair, faith. We hope that we will not have to live these tragic moments again, even though we are far from beating the enemy. It is important, though, to have understood that we are stronger together. John Donne wrote, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of a continent, a part of the main." I also wrote something for the diary, talking about being far away from a daughter who lives in London. Even though we were apart, we still found ways to feel close. I also described how I felt not being able to see my children for months, even though they live close to me. The joy I felt when I could finally see them again was immense. It was important for me to be able to share my feelings with others. From the publishing perspective, the diary is quite significant as it includes about 700 works by hundreds of writers and over 3,000 pages. It is even more important if we think that it's done at a time when many publishing activities have been suspended. It will take time to go back to normal. We hope that other countries will take a similar approach and inspire writers to write about their experience. Perhaps we could work together on a world diary. FUIS would be up for this challenge. As for this conference, FUIS think that it is necessary to produce a definitive document to circulate to all International Authors Forum members and others. All the suggestions made during this conference could be summarized in a document and possibly presented to the relevant governments to make them aware of the issues faced by this sector. We would like this to be the first of many events to be organized regularly. We would also like other parties to get involved. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes.
Thank you, Ida. And now, by way of finishing this presentation of our diary in coronavirus and an introduction to the next, where we will hear from some of the contributors who have joined us today to the diary, I would like to share a contribution of someone who's not here, but which was made by a visual artist called Francoise Almendinger, depicting her response to lockdown in Gabon, where she is from. Okay, so Francoise was unable to join us today, but I know she and her colleague Sylvie, who runs the Association of Writers in Gabon, would have very much liked to be with us today, but it's wonderful, and I'd like to thank Francoise for this opportunity to share her perspective nonetheless. So now I'm going to turn to our panelists, all of them writers, who are here today to share their responses to the pandemic, both personally and professionally. And I'd like to open the panel by asking each writer to give an opening statement, lasting no longer than 3 minutes. So I'd ask them all to kindly keep an eye on the time so that we can have a chance to have a short dialogue at the end of the panel. And I'd also like to note that, as Ida said, the series of diaries produced each Sunday, which are already available on FUIS's website, are also going to be available in print in October as editions of the international magazine Former Fluens, with which FUIS collaborates. So I encourage you to find out more about our panelists' work and read their contributions to the diary, either online or in print. So turning to our writers, first of all, we're going to introduce Maggie Gee, who comes from the UK. Maggie, over to you.
Writers work alone, but we've felt more alone during COVID. Events when we meet readers, the deep friends of our imagination, were cancelled. We could no longer meet our personal friends either. But sometimes new energy came to close friendships, people so part of our life that we forgot to see them often. Where were they? Were they okay? Phone calls, emails, WhatsApps, Zooms followed. The hygiene of the internet allowed love and care across thousands of miles. My Ghanaian friend of 35 years, Hanasaki, went back to live in Ghana weeks before lockdown, partly to give her son, Robbie Spotswood, a photographer, freedom in London. I saw her just before she went, before we knew lockdown was coming. Then it was here, and I worried. How would Ghana cope? I didn't know Ghana would cope better than Britain, closing its borders, raising healthcare salaries. I wrote this poem thanks to the invitation from Katie Webb and FUIS for Hannah and Robbie, and read an extract. None of us know where we are anymore or where we are going. Old friend and dear Hannah, you planned to return from here to your first home, Ghana, long before this. The boy needs his space. For photography, his profession, and also to be. Your son Robbie, the gifted and teasing London boy, who makes moonscapes of smoke and glass from shadows and light in small urban rooms, who catches our lips and the gaps in the things we say, and strips with his camera what's not of our essence away. Hannah, when you arrived at Heathrow, aged 10, from grandma in Ghana, we kept you a week in detention. You thought, this is Britain. Loved sweets and the airport lights. I know as little of Ghana as you did then of London, but here we are, linked by the phone this morning, and both of us dancing. You to soca and Afrobeat to keep fit, and I to Motown. In the handheld movie you send, I can stroll down your neighborhood walk in Accra by your side and see wide open streets that might lead to my seaside estates. And now we are here, dancing and laughing, kept safe by love and by distance.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much, Maggie. And I'd just like to note that Maggie's poem, along with 2 wonderful photographs taken by Hannah's son, Robbie Spotswood, accompany the poem, and so will be included in the magazine in the print edition. So our next speaker is Gilgamesh Nabeel. Gilgamesh writes from Istanbul in Turkey, but comes from Iraq. Over to you, Gilgamesh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the Italian authoritarian of the writers. I'm more honored to be here today. And actually, I cannot say something as beautiful as what Maggie had said and introduced us with, because I haven't prepared something special. I want just to talk about our experience as writers. And as Maggie said, we writers write alone and usually live alone with their books and virtual friends most of the time. And COVID-19 made us more isolated, and it deprived us of the opportunity to go out freely and to meet friends, especially for me, as I live in another country and usually meet friends who come from abroad. So with the travel obstacles and all the measures that had made traveling so difficult, I feel more lonely. But still, there was a positive thing that the COVID-19 and the pandemic in general gave me the opportunity to read more often during the lockdown. And I'm following the pandemic as a writer and as a medical graduate at the same time. And I found myself forced to go back to medicine because of my friend asking about how to protect ourselves from the disease and how to protect our families. And so I made few interviews and some live broadcast on the pandemic. I wasn't that optimistic because I know that this virus had many mutations, and I still doubt there will be a vaccine in the near future. So I urge people to accept the reality that we are going to live with this for a long time. And it is a little bit pessimistic, but we have to accommodate to this situation. And I also follow the pandemic and its effects on writers because I translate for an online publication that's dedicated for higher education in the Middle East and North Africa. It's called FNR Media. And we published many articles on how the pandemic affected writers and publishers and even visual artists, and how they feel isolated and how they lost their income sources in many places. And this comes with the economic drawbacks and how this left them in need for help. And there were many organizations in the MENA region to support those who are unable even to pay for their rents. And so I was following the pandemic from the medical aspect and its effect on the writers, as well as living the pandemic myself, because as I told you, I felt more lonely. And yet it gave us the opportunity to meet people online like we are doing right now. And this is the brightest part of the pandemic, I think. And thank you for hosting me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Gilgamesh. And it's wonderful to hear a voice from the MENA region as well. It means a lot to us as IAF. So it's wonderful that you could join us.
It's my pleasure.
Moving swiftly on to our third writer today, who is coming to us from India, and his name is Sumit Raj. So Sumit, over to you.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, as for that. Well, in my case, it was quite different as a writer, because I am a nature writer. I write about nature, I write about spirituality. And when I move out, I walk and the stories come to my mind. But during the lockdown, I had to be inside, thinking of the world, standing on my rooftop, looking at the world, what people are doing, what are they thinking about their life. So with all these thoughts, one thing that came to my mind was that it is a nature's way to clean itself. Suddenly, we started seeing videos of animals entering the big cities, crowded cities. The roads are without traffic and animals are walking on them. Suddenly, we started seeing videos about rivers being cleaned. Suddenly, we started seeing videos about cities getting cleaned completely because there was no one to throw garbage. There was no one to litter around there. So that way, I think it is nature's broom. And I wrote an article also about it with the same title. Nature has arrived with its broom. To clean it, you have to sit inside, wait for nature to clean it, and then you go out. A small poem which I wrote in Hindi, I'll translate it in English. When you came to this world, how beautiful it looked. But you came and you divided this world into pieces, into countries, cities, and states. And further on, you divided this world into castes and religions. And with all these things, the politics followed. Then you became greedy. Then you became hungry for more things. And then you started doing all the bad things to achieve your targets. Why did you see the dreams which couldn't be fulfilled? And the Almighty sitting up there, he thought, we are going to worship nature. But when he came, he saw we are not worshiping nature. We have divided this world into temples, churches, and mosques. The fields which used to give you crop, you abandoned them. The jungle which used to give you shade, you abandoned that. Whatever you asked him, he gave you every time. But now it is his time. You are asked to sit inside. And when he is there to work, no politics and no religion can be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sumit. It's wonderful to hear all this poetry, and I certainly felt the opportunity to observe nature was unrivaled during this period. I don't think I've ever understood the seasons so well. So that's something I'll definitely take as a blessing. Carlos Wynter is our next speaker, and he is coming from Panama. So Carlos, please would you give us your introduction?
Hi, Katie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. The IAF, which is a very important organization that is going, I know, to be a door for every Latin American author and people from all over the world. Well, as Katie said, I am a Panamanian narrator. Panama is in the very middle of the American continent. You may have heard about the Panama Canal, Rubén Blades, Roberto Mano de Piedra Durán. I have published short story books, novels, and an essay book. I write about characters who live in different realities at the same time. I've been teaching in writing courses for a while, for a long time, and also for a university, La Universidad Latina. And I started a publishing house back in 2010. I sent a link in which is the first study, or first study in a long time about creative industries. I think it's important information. I will talk a little bit about it. Well, how is writing creatively in Panama? We are creative people, of course, because we're a young nation. but we do not think about creativity like something that will survive the instant. I think we do think about creativity like something like does not deserve eternity. It may be because we are a young nation and we have not experienced long-term existences, or because our history circles about circumstances. We are some kind of a transit country because of our geographical position, but we still, well, do every day what we can to create and to have some art in our lives. Maybe we need more memory. Good art needs memory, of course, memory and certainty that transcendence is more important than survival. That's why people still see creativity as a part-time job. To feed the body is more important still than doing so with the spirits. We're working just for this life, this material life, but as I said, each time we are having more spaces. But talking about COVID-19, of course, we are living the same thing that you all guys are living. We are wearing masks every hour of the day almost. And we're experiencing some kind of solitude, which I think it is a good thing. I think literature, we authors open doors to different realities. And now that everything's being questioned, psychological reality, material reality, symbolic reality, all these realities may be left aside, and we can go for something else through literature. I think art is going to be really important in these days for that. As far as we know, almost the whole year we have used masks, of course, and it will be, I think I agree with Gilgamesh, we don't know for how long it's going to be. I think we should prepare ourselves for a future that is not going to be the same. I don't believe in this thing like a new normal thing, because it's not going to be normal. It's a new reality, and sometimes when we change, when the things change around us, we got to look in ourselves, in our own spirit, and that's a positive thing. So that's what I have right now, and we can chat a little bit more when everybody finishes their parts. So thank you again for the invitation, and well.
Thank you very much, Carlos, and yeah, for reminding us that our imaginations are very much still at our disposals and more important than ever, I think, now. So our last speaker on this panel is Jorge Quammensal, who is a writer from Mexico. Jorge didn't make a contribution to our diary, but I have been delighted to meet him during the pandemic, virtually, of course, and having had several long conversations over the period about authors' rights in Mexico and all over the world, and really beginning to build IAF's work there together, I feel like we have also been keeping somewhat of a diary in coronavirus. So Jorge, welcome, and thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Katie, and I feel that too. I feel honored to participate in this debate organized by the International Authors Forum. And well, I usually have a hard time to write about myself. I write about nature and fictional characters. And I want to share with you, motivated by John Deegan's presentation, something about the place I live in and Mexico's meaning. I live in Mexico City, and Mexico is a Nahuatl word, which probably means the place at the belly button of the moon. You know, Mestli is the moon, and it's a city in the middle of what used to be a lake surrounded by volcanoes. Most of them are inactive, fortunately, at a pretty high elevation above sea level, and very close to a very active tectonic region where there are a lot of powerful earthquakes. And So I have sheltered in place as everyone for many months, and in the worst part of the pandemic in Mexico in June, there was quite a powerful earthquake in Mexico. So the alarms started sound, the alarms went off, and I felt very nervous, and before I knew how powerful the earthquake was going to be, I had to choose between going out to the streets and be in danger of contagion, or staying at my apartment and being in danger of things falling down. And well, I stayed at my apartment, and that was the moment where I felt most vulnerable and lonely in this period. And afterwards, I started. Fortunately, it was powerful, but there was no terrible damage in Mexico City. And afterwards, I was looking at pictures in the news of how people had reacted to this earthquake. And I saw a friend of mine's picture, a reporter's picture, where there was a lot of people on the sidewalk, and a woman, everyone was wearing masks, and a woman was hugging a tree. Usually when we are scared by earthquakes, people hug each other and talk to each other, but everyone was keeping their distance this time. And there was this woman hugging the tree. And the only really personal thing I have been able to write about during this period was that I felt that I wanted to be that tree in that moment, that I needed to be hugged by someone. And then I thought, well, at least traditional paper books are made of trees, and maybe we can hold on to them during these uncertain times, and write each other, listen to each other, and I've been trying to think about how it would be to be a tree in this period. And well, that is something I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Jorge. Wow, that was well, that's a lovely thought. And yeah, from hugs to trees to paper, I think we can learn new ways to find affection and these human needs and instincts that have been, well, we've been prevented from responding to. So thank you. So thank you all of you for, wow, a constellation of perspectives and responses. So much to think about. I think we still have a couple of minutes that we could continue with our panel before moving on to the final panel. So I was hoping, I just wanted to open the discussion to you all, writers who've just spoken, and ask if you have any responses to what you've heard your fellow panelists talking about today. Just anything that strikes you particularly about what you've shared as writers despite the distance, or perhaps what's surprised you about what you've heard from the others. So yeah, open the floor, so to speak.
Just to say, I'm moved by what people say about nature, hugging the tree, about the importance of nature, and also the wisdom about what we might have done to nature, and how nature might be trying to clean itself up, or be able to, and just moved too by people talking about loneliness, because if you're locked up alone and you're far from your country, I was not in that state, but still lonely. So thank you. It's lovely to hear what you've felt.
Thank you, Maggie. Gilgamesh?
Yeah, actually, Jorge reminded me of caricatures spread in Turkey, the earthquakes, and people fleeing their homes to find the COVID-19 waiting for them on street, and then coming back to inside, and the earthquake risk is there. So that was like, we might say a bitter comedy, a tragic comedy, because it is something funny and sad at the same time. On the opposite, at the beginning, for me, COVID-19 made me forget about the earthquakes in Istanbul. You know, it's also, experiencing many earthquakes and the tremors from time to time. So I forgot about them and thinking about the earthquakes because of COVID-19. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilgamesh. Okay, I think everybody, well, thank you very much. That was, very stimulating, and I think probably lots that will all go away and think about more from what our writers contributed today. So thank you for your impressions and your participation today.